All right. The tube's telling me that I'm live. Got kind of a hard stop. So I made an executive decision to go back to a digest. I just didn't want to for this project anyway. I just didn't want to. I felt that limiting it uh, to the pamphlet format was just not going to work. Wasn't going to work. So I decided not to try. Um, Maybe I'll make a pamphlet version. I do want to try the pamphlet. I'm not really giving up on it as a thing, but I think you got to find the right piece. And it might be that it's the right, it's not necessarily, you kind of get your heart set maybe, or you just feel enthusiastic about the way, what you want to do with something. And then you just realize that, if I'm going to do what I really want to do, it's going to be hard to work. And there's not really that much reason. If this was something that I had a deal like, if somebody was saying, "Hey Todd, I want you to make an adventure for my system and I want it to be a pamphlet," then great. Then I would be like, "All right, I got to stick to it." But this is for me. This is something that will probably live digitally for the most part. I think this is actually easier for people to print and put together. You don't need the double-sided part, obviously, if you're going to put it together as a print it at home as a booklet, you need to have a double-sided printer. So I guess that's the same, but you don't really have to worry. I don't know, maybe it isn't even easier to print, but I feel like it is. And if you're doing it digitally anyway, then I think one of the issues with the other format is you actually had to have two kind of connected files. One that's purely for printing and one that's purely for digital, because trying to read it in the pamphlet style is kind of annoying. And it's kind of annoying. Thankfully, it's only really 2 pages, the front and back, before all the folding. But still, it even gets a little bit awkward to look at visually when you're just trying to kind of read the flow of it, because the flow is not what it would appear to be. Excuse me. So it actually in Publisher, it is actually not. A couple of issues happened, but it was basically, and I still have to clean up some things, but it really was not too, and I think I got to fix these because, yeah, you see, these are not the same width anymore. These columns are not the same width. It's not split. In fact, let me fix some of that now while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, see, it's got these, and I don't need them. Yeah, I'm just gonna remove all the guides. Remove all the guides, and then I will do view. I think make some new guides, and I want 2 guides, and I don't know. Is that too much? I'll have to try that. And then the same thing, view guides, just move all the guides. Okay. And now I'll have to do some more, rejiggering around. That space might be too much. That might be more than I need. I don't know. We'll see. I have to play around with that space. So there's going to be a bunch of that kind of tweaking out. But on actual, let me take a swig here of watered down apple cider for the working man. And my voice is still rough. I'm not, so apologies for that. Okay, so one of the things I had been struggling. So here, yeah. So if you're following along at home, and here I'll switch to let me switch to this view. I have taken the pyramid map out of Designer and stuck it into Publisher. There are several ways to do this, but what Affinity has done, if you own Publisher, Photo, and Designer, is you can actually access them all from Publisher. So I can switch. They call them personas. You can switch between personas. So right now I'm in the typesetting desktop publishing persona. That's Publisher. I can switch and basically get, essentially what it is you basically switch to an interface that basically is Designer inside of Publisher. So then you'll notice if I switch to the persona, Now suddenly it's like I'm in Designer, but I'm still in Publisher. And I can do the same thing with Photo. It's not perfect because notice there's some quirks here. Notice I turned off all my guides and things in Publisher. If I have this turned on and I come over here, then I still see that stuff. If I turn it off like I had before, and I come in here, there's no way to turn it on, at least that I can find. It's that command doesn't exist in Designer, and they don't give you that allowance. I would hope it would be nice if you had something like, hey, we understand that this thing is a publisher only feature, but you may actually want to turn on and off. And maybe there is a way to do it. I don't know. I can't find it offhand. If it does, it exists in a different place with potentially different iconography. Any case, so I brought in the map, and let me turn this back on. And I still have it in all the vectors. So one of the nice things is because I didn't bring this in as a flat image, I brought it in as all the vector, because it's all vector from Designer. All that stuff is still there. So for example, I brought it in here and I realized that for the gate room, because I kind of figured out, which I'll go over in a minute, is the theming. So remember I was talking about theming, like what is this dungeon's theme? Because there's not that much going on in here. Maybe I'll have a monster of sorts, but there's not that much in the way of hazards. I'm still curious if I'm thinking about a trap of some sort, of some kind. But really, it's just about kind of raising the tension, just kind of having this thing to get up to the thing. And it may even be overkill for that. Well, I'll have to play through and see it. And by the way, I've set it up so it's set. If you're at ArcaneCon this fall, I am running a game there, and it's going to be this. Which I guess means either I don't know if you'll remember by the time ArcaneCon comes around, but I will be running that, so I definitely need to have it. I mean, I want to get this done in the next couple of days, but I will definitely be running this in a con setting at ArcaneCon. And maybe elsewhere too. I may run this at Claricon also. I probably will, now that I'm thinking about it. But so it's nice. So even though it was all done in Designer, and I didn't have to flatten it, I didn't have to pull it out as an image, I don't have to switch apps to make tweaks. I can literally just click on something, switch to the Designer persona, and I can go and move things. If I want to move nodes or things around, I can. And I actually did that a little bit because I realized when I was doing the grid that some of my lines had gone slightly off. So I was able to fix them. I moved this secret door. It was over here, and I thought, it makes more sense for it to be here. And that I put some stairs. I put some extra stairs in these spots. There's a lot. There's a lot you can do, and it's nice again because in another workflow, at least what I'm used to with the old sort of Illustrator and InDesign workflow, maybe it's different now. Is that you go into open up Illustrator, do your work, export it out, and then if everything's working right, InDesign will recognize that, this image has changed, and then you can update the image, but it kind of takes a couple steps. You have to have both apps open potentially. Excuse me. In this one, I don't have to do that. I can just do everything from here. I don't know if it affects performance. Maybe if I had something super complicated with lots of vectors and things going on, that might be a factor. It's not here. The other nice thing is I can essentially resize it because it's all vectors. It'll just size up and down. So this, I tried it small. I didn't like the way it looked. I was able to hide and show the labels. I was like, maybe without the labels. And then I said, you know what? Let me increase it. I was able to do all that. And I'm not worrying about compression with a flat image. It's all vectors, so it just sizes up. Right. Dunzo. So besides cleaning up some lines, I added, or cleaning up some of the lines. In other words, the outlines. I added the the grid. Hey, Ian, I added the grid, which I think one thing that happened, I noticed as I did the grid was it. I don't know. I think this happened when I was. Excuse me. When I had to save. I had to find and save. What's this rectangle? What's this? Oh, that it broke my door. It broke. Well, let me fix this. Okay, so obviously now I can see there are some oddities happening. Oh, it broke all that stuff. Wow, it did. Well, let's see. Well, I can. Oh yeah, it just look at that. It did something. Okay, so something happened as I was moving it around. It detached a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I could go and copy and paste it and pull it all back in because I don't think I really changed anything. Well, other than moving that, I moved that. Let's see, what did I added a few things, a couple things. That's interesting. I think this is kind of final. The one thing I wanted to fix though was my lines because it broke all my groups. And it broke, wow, it really broke all the grouping. All right, so where are my lines? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is going to be a pain. All right, you know what? I think I might do that because, all right, let's see. If I grab all this, excuse me. All right, let's do this again. Okay. I'm good. I remember what I changed. I had everything very organized and it just broke all that. You know what? I don't have to do it this way. So let me switch over here. So here's my original map. See, I had this secret door here and I moved it over like this. See, notice my grid lines were a lot slimmer and trimmer, or they were just shaded differently. That originally stuck when I brought it in, but then something happened where it kind of broke that. And then I had some more stairs and I brought them over and I put it right. I think I put it right like here. And then I also had put some stairs here. And then I think that's about it, right? I don't think I did anything else. Oh yeah, and I did. So this is all in that symbols layer, and then in the labels layer, I did have that, and I just called this alcove, and then I turned it, and I stuck it basically there. There might be another way to do that. Oops, is there a way I can kind of... Okay, alcove. Interesting that the let's see, where is the... Can I view the characters? It's a little bit... Huh. It might be interesting. I don't know if that's a zooming thing, but the spacing between the characters is a little bit funky. All right, I'll keep it like that. I think that should be okay. So I had everything very nicely. Very nicely, and I'll save that. So all I do is I just copy it, and now I can switch to publisher. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to delete you, and I'm going to paste. And I'll need to come back over here so I can turn that on so I can see what the heck I'm doing. And then I want to make sure you're lined up there. And then I'm just going to drag you over till I get there. Boom. See, look at that. Again, done and done. And everything is basically, and whatever I was that had gotten mucked up in the transition from fiddling with the saving the documents. I saved the old one in the pamphlet format and I kind of made a copy of it. And then I changed the page size templating. Somewhere in there, it goofed on that. I don't know why. I was also moving things from page to page. I don't know if that did it. I should try to remember in case something comes up, but there it is. So secret door here, I just gave a label there, alcove, everything's hunky-dory. So, and I added the grid lines in, but they're nice and light. I don't think that and this is another reason why I like to turn this off. Sometimes look at it so I can see, okay, is it overwhelming what's going on? And I don't think it is. And I like and just for myself, I like having the outline of like, hey, here's the pyramid. I could even see kind of putting in like, here's the maybe make it a little bit more detailed with like, here's the outer stairs, but I'd want it to be in a really light gray because it's not super important. The important thing is you come up at the top and then you're taking stairs all the way down. So I'd been thinking about, my thought had been, what's the word I'm looking for? What the theme? Okay, so kind of the theme, right? So there's not going to be a lot going on there. There might be the kind of Renfield character is probably going to be somewhere. I think it was either going to be in the lower chapel or in the guard room. I was thinking that maybe because the demon is still sealed in the prison that's down here, but they're obviously able to emanate some energy, something outwards. They're able to make some emanations. So I've been thinking about, okay, well, should I have some something he's doing in the emanations? Like, is he trying to, like, what is it? This, because remember the to kind of go over it, the demon is stuck here. The conceit is that this wizard who's been venerated in this area basically sacrificed their body and maybe even their soul, their body at least, to imprison this demon, to hold the demon in a physical form, and then they entrap the physical form in this prison. So the kicker is, in terms of this adventure, is that killing the physical form of the demon, yes, will send the demon off the plane. He won't be stuck here, and the things that he's been causing, I don't know, these whispers are sending out, will stop. However, the demon's now back home and can do whatever it wants to do and potentially do worse things. The whole concept behind why they did what they did was they didn't want to just send the demon home so they could go try again. This is kind of the interesting thing, to me anyway. If you look at it, if you think about it in terms of, if you're the adventurer, if we were not playing this, we were playing the adventure that led up to this, which might be fun, but it would be I think it would be longer and more, whatever. It would be, okay, you've got this demon and you defeated the demon's army or whatever it is, but now it's, okay, well, what do you do? The demon's in whatever form it's in. And okay, if maybe that form is dying, which has probably led some urgency to asking the question. So this form dies. The demon just goes back home. We've been weakened. We've had our army that we had to raise, and it was a brutal battle. We lost all kinds of heroes. We can't, if the demon comes back in even a couple of years, there's a high potential we're not going to be able to rebuild. We don't have the resources. It will take us generations to get the resources back to do this. And the demon goes home and starts plotting another way to get back, right? The demon doesn't sleep. It's a terminator of evil. It doesn't eat, doesn't sleep. It's just, what can it do? And that's its power. You're sending it back home to essentially recharge its power, have access to all its stuff, and then you're basically saying, if there was a reason you came, you didn't win, but we're weakened now, that we won't be able to stop you again. In some ways, it's kind of similar to the if you want to look at like the Sauron problem. Excuse me, Sauron isn't what in the Third Age, right? In the Lord of the Rings, he's not what he was. But the Free Peoples are even less what they were. And the whole problem with Lord of the Rings is that who's in position? We can't fight the fight that we did in the Second Age, where the ring was taken and Isildur. Also, we can't do that because those heroes, those armies, the quality of our people, those elven heroes are gone, and the elves are leaving. Humans are not as mighty as they were. Everything's weaker now, and Sauron, though he may be weaker, he's going to be stronger than us, and the orcs and everything are kind of coming back, and they're rebounding quicker than we can. So we have to do something. We can't just, right now, I think that's kind of part of the whole, hey, we can't just punt this down the line. That's the sort of like, what if we throw the ring in the sea? Well, that's just punting the problem, and it's not going to get better for us in 100 years or 200 years or whenever the ring decides to show up again. It's going to be worse. We have to try to finish the problem. So that was Lord of the Rings. In this case, there's no ring, there's none of that, but they clearly, or in my mind anyway, they thought about in this moment of, hey, we've got this thing trapped. And if we send it home, one, it's probably going to have revenge on its mind. I mean, what else do demons have to really think about? It's probably who has wronged them in their mind, and what vengeance can they wreak? And we've just done this thing. So who's gonna and who's gonna be around to save us? Everyone, all these heroes with these armies and everything. We're tapped out right now, and we may never recover, and it may take us years and years and years to recover. So what's another option? Can we not send it back? Well, if you kill his body, you're sending it back. Well, what if we kill the demon itself? Well, taking kind of a page out of sort of, I don't know if he knows OD&D. This is definitely what Daniel does in his campaign. Say to kill a demon, you have to go down and kill it in its realm. You have to kill it in its source of power. You have to take the ring. You have to go to Mount Doom. You have to enter Mordor, go to Mount Doom, and that's how you eliminate that problem. Otherwise, you're not, you can hide the ring. You can't destroy it. You got to take it home, right? You got to kill the demon at home. And if you think about it, and you go, well, we're not strong enough. We can't kill the demon at home. Well, you can't let it go, and we don't want to kill it because we don't send it home. So what can we do? Well, maybe we could trap it here. And that's what they did. We say, you know what? We're going to stick it in a better body, maybe a body that is more either immune to aging, an ageless body, or one that ages very slowly, or whatever. We got to put it into a body that we can kind of trap here for a good long period of time. And I don't know all the exact mechanics about it, but the idea was that the wizard gave maybe in order to, you had to have a will in the body strong enough to kind of keep things at bay. If you think about it, something like The Exorcist, when the demon doesn't have full control, the host can kind of fight it. Well, you need something, maybe you need a host that's got enough going on, is strong enough so that host can keep the demon bottled up, at least until you've got it inside the prison and the seals are active, kind of thing. So they figure out how to get the demon into another body. Maybe they tricked it. Maybe the demon couldn't help itself. Maybe they forced it. However they did it, right? And then they trapped it. But this trap it was never going to be forever. I think probably the original trap makers thought that, hey, in a couple of, when we are strong enough, we'll come back and we'll revisit it. But this buys us the generations will need to figure it out. And of course, things don't happen that way. People die. Stories become myth becomes legend. Things get kind of twisted. People kind of start to disbelieve, blah, blah, blah. And so now you're at this point, well, the demon's here. And now we're at the end of the warranty, essentially, and things are starting to break down. So anyhow, getting back to, I say all of that to talk about the theme. So we got this prison and we got these things working up. From this prison, we already know, because that's kind of the setup of the adventure, that the demon's able to send out what I'm calling kind of whispers, where he's sort of, I don't know if you want to call it telepathy, something else. He's reaching out into the minds and trying to affect people. And he's done a pretty good job of affecting at least a couple of people to do bad things, which is what kicks off the adventure. That's the kickoff. The crime that the party is brought in to solve and render justice on is because this demon was able to find a few open and willing minds that took in the message and went with it. So it is possible that, and I was thinking maybe some illusions or something that the demon might be sending outwards. However, the flip side is that the demon doesn't necessarily want to, there's two things. He's trying to get the boy that he's spoken to, he's trying to get the boy to a point where he'll let the demon kind of enter him. And I think that there has to be maybe like a vampire or something, not a vampire with a person, but you say the vampire won't just enter your house. You have to invite it in. Maybe the demon is something similar. The demon can't just come in. The demon needs to be invited in. Something like that, where he's trying to break this kid down. It might seem like it's in the demon's best interest to keep the party away from this while he's doing this. And he needs time, so he could send up illusions. But the other hand is, one, as I'm sure demons are well aware, parties of adventurers a lot of things are fluid for a party of adventurers. And they could possibly help him. If he can't get the kid to turn, then so here, from the demon's perspective, here are its outcomes. The outcome it doesn't want is to be stuck there more. This is not an adventure where you repair the seals, but it could definitely be, if you were starting this was a campaign starter, that would definitely be, if you got here, you came here and you dealt with this thing and you're like, okay, we need to repair the seals. And maybe there's a way, now that you know what the demon's doing, to put more of a stop to it. But essentially, Essentially, this whole adventure is really just asking you the question, well, what do you do? All right, you get to this whole thing, you get this demon. Some people are going to be like, kill it with fire, and the demon is actually okay with that. It's not his prime, not his number one goal, but it could be number two, because 3 is you decide to leave him there until you can fix it, and that's what he doesn't want. Because again, maybe there's some temporary ways you could do some things. I would definitely be open if I was running this too. Well, what can you do? What can you do? Or this could be the adventure number 2 is, okay, we need to figure out how to get these seals redone. So bringing the party down, given they're a wild card, yes. They will want to rescue the boy, yes. But does that mean that he can force them or sort of trick them into fighting him, maybe? And then thereby, if you can't have the boy, get killed and so get freed in that aspect? Yes. So you on a sense, you have this nice, like, hey, victory levels, right? But it means is that the complicated part for me anyway is that in terms of the dungeon, is the demon may very well not be wanting to stop the party. The demon may actually want to help the party. The demon may be thinking like, you really are, like, the party in some ways is their plan B. They didn't plan it that way. This is not one of those, haha, you fell for all my trick all along. It's not really it, but I think it's pretty easy to reason out, like, well, if this doesn't work, it still may be 1,000 years until these seals fail, which you could say, well, in a demon's lifetime, that's almost nothing. But I think they're also kind of impatient. I don't know that I get the demons are the most patient sorts. It would be annoying. At the very least, it would be annoying. And it might be like, well, they're kind of my safety. Hey, if I can't get the kid, then maybe I can get these guys to kill me. And then, murder by, or was it suicide by party? Or, sorry, it's not really, I don't even want to call it suicide. Escape by party. Escape via the party. And I'll get out that way. But I won't be on this plane because I won't have a vessel, but at least I'll be home. I might have to endure some punishment or ridicule from my fellow demons, but then I can start back up again, knowing that, this place is weaker. Now, the one thing I have not thought about yet is and I might just leave it. It's like, well, what does the demon want? Like, the demon came here, smells trouble, got imprisoned here, and if he's going to come back, or it's going to come back, why is it coming back? And I haven't got that, and I don't know that I need to figure that out yet. I think I might put that as a question, because it's definitely like, well, what's going on here? What was happening here that this demon wanted? Is it still around? So is it coming back to get it? So this is a very long-winded way of talking about, well, what's going on in the rest of this dungeon. I don't know what I want to have in terms of the demon, how it's influencing or emanating out or casting spells. To use that kind of phrase, though, I don't know if I would categorize it exactly like that, using its whatever power it has through here. There's not going to be a ton of enemies. This was kind of sealed up. It's not one of these like, oh, and I don't think that's kind of would be the jam that the people would have used for it. I just don't know that that's kind of what they're going for. So I didn't want to have like, oh, there's a bunch of constructs and things like that. And plus, just thematically, this is not supposed to be a kind of fool you and die. Now, I might put a trap in here because I think they don't want people to go to this prison, at least until they're kind of ready. So I did come up with a theme. So I guess this is a really long window. I did come up with a theme. So I was looking up like, well, what are some symbols of kind of like justice and truth? These are the kind of things that I think this temple would have been around. Like, really law, right? If you're a law, what kind of stuff is law? Justice, truth, I think those are good things. So I was looking at stone tablets, like, the 10 Commandments, or, the Hammurabi, the kind of thing, right? Oh, these laws. So like a stone tablet to me was a good kind of law, justice, kind of, order sort of symbol. And then I was poking around and I saw someone's like, oh, what else is kind of a symbol sometimes of kind of justice or law and stuff, is a flame, which is also kind of this symbol of truth. So I thought, okay, so those ended up being the themes I decided to go with, which is basically a flame, and these stone tablets. So I'd been thinking about it again. If you've been following along, I have these gates these came actually out of the Don John dungeon, and I just kind of kept them. But I was thinking about, okay, well, what to do with these? How do you open these gates? And I thought that I put these statues here are my creation. I said, okay, we'll put some statues in here, and then I thought, like, well, it probably makes sense. Or in my mind, I was thinking there's going to be some relation between the statues and these gates and things. But I didn't think about, well, what would that look like? So I kind of have what it is, and the nice thing is I can explain it, and I'll read through what I have in fairly short, because I'm being basically opposite of flowery. I'm being as unflowery with my prose as possible to keep it really short and sweet. I have more space now, but I'm not intending to, like, oh, well, now that I'm doing it as a more of a standard booklet, I can just go ape. I'm still gonna keep it really slim and trim. So example for the so inside the pyramid entrance, unadorned room. On the door is a carved relief of a flame on a tablet. So there's your first thing, right? That's your kind of truth, truth and law, or truth and justice, whatever you want to call it. Okay. You enter the antechamber, which is this circular chamber here. A wide circular room. In the center is a statue of a man in a tunic and apron holding a chisel. Leaning upon the plinth, which is the kind of the block that kind of pulls the statue off the ground, is a stone tablet, right? I'll call it a blank. I'll call it a, no, I'll just leave it alone. I'll just call it a stone tablet. So he's holding a chisel and okay, and he's wearing an apron, like, I'm trying to kind of give you, like, he's a sculptor or some kind, right? It's like an artisan's apron. And so the note here is carving a flame upon the tablet will open the gate. So there's so basically I've been putting is that all the things are going to be triggered by some combination of flames and tablets, but in different ways. It's not all going to be the same, as you will see. So of the ones I've done so far. So in this one, chisel, there's a tablet line there if you carve, and you could be up to the GM, but if you didn't have, I was thinking, because you could kind of use, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a crazy carving. It can be, I just use my knife and kind of cut into it. I would allow all that. I would even allow if you drew it on there. I think carved, but basically whatever. So you do that, and then whoop, this gate opens up. Great. And you can go these ways. I still don't have anything for the long gallery of the crypts. Excuse me. I don't have a description for the upper chapel yet, though I like the idea that there are these two chapels and there are two gates, and if you pray at both these, then these gates will open. I like that. I like it for now. I might have to make sure that these have a different, and I'll have to figure out how to what's the word? How to describe what's in here, and then maybe I'll have something matching in this guard room to kind of sort that out. Okay, so but here's the other one that I thought was clever. So I moved the secret door. So originally the secret door was down here. I moved it up here because to me it felt really, I was having a hard time describing it, and just felt like, why is this so far? You put the secret door here and then go down. Why would you put it way down here? Because then it seems to be pretty obvious in this kind of dungeon that you have this long hallway that goes to nothing, that there's probably something here. But this way it also puts it much closer to this alcove, which has a statue in it. In this case, the statue has a torch, is holding a torch and holding a tablet. On the wall here is carved a tablet. So what you need to do is put your torch to the tablet, and the secret door will unlock or open. So, right. So again, we're doing the flame and the tablet, but in a different way. Here we carved it into the tablet to open this one. Here we put an actual flame, and I'm presuming this is a kind of a low-level party style adventure, so I'm assuming you're going to have torches. I would also put, if I'm not going to be a jerk, though. If you've got a lantern, you put the lantern up against it. Some kind of, I'm sure, it's magic, so it's not about, I would be I think it's more cool if you actually touch the flame to the tablet, and you could, depending on how you wanted to be about, ooh, the flame, kind of part of the flame seems to glow, and like you could make it all kinds of fun. But if you had a um, if you had a lantern or something, I would, I'd work it. The idea is to equate to touch some kind of light source to the tablet. But I'm assuming it's going to would be a torch or a lantern, but whatever. And then in this one, so I kind of like this one. So things now here, this changes a little bit over in this one. So essentially, what happens is you come in here. If you now here you come down, there's a gate. There's no way to get to the gate. You have to go to the gate room to open the gate, which I also was interesting because it made sense to me, and just in that if this is a ceremonial type of room, and or at least it used to be, maybe you would have some access here, and here people could be coming in. If you were a temple worker, you might be in here, and someone visiting would pass through, come in, and then you would control access into this room from here. And I just have basically there's a big winch in here, and you turn it, and it chains. This is actually a really a manual sort of gate. In this room, these two statues are blindfolded, and they have flames carved over their hearts. So they're standing, they're in robes, they're did I do blindfolds or were their eyes closed? I think I meant blindfolds. Yeah, blindfold. Excuse me. So here they have two statues. Statues show someone they're blindfolded and they have flames carved over their hearts. And then on the doors here are closed eyes. Each one, on each door is a closed eye with a flame over it. So in this one, when you open these doors, when you're basically these doors will open. When you come in here, it will be pitch black, and you cannot. There is no flame or like any light, whether it's magical or whether it's mundane, is going to go out. You're going to be pitch black. If you close your eyes, you'll see the stairs with like your inner eye. You'll see it. So it's this kind of idea of faith, like this. Excuse me. The concept here is that I'm working on is kind of this idea: is you come here, and it's like, okay, you got to follow your inner flame. This is the flame in your heart. This is your inner flame you have to follow. So you need to close out of any kind of external. Right? This is not about what you can see. This is about inside, sort of having faith in that faith or whatever you want to call it in there. And I thought that's kind of a neat thing, because I can imagine if it's completely black and there's stairs, there's obviously lots of options for save because there's no railings or anything, so there could be lots of tumbles. It's going to be tough or very interesting to navigate if you do in the dark. Of course you can, but it'd be really interesting. I'm hoping, and of course you never can tell, I'm hoping that by the time you've had dealt with this statue, and this is all maybes because I'm not going to stop you from brute forcing it. You can brute force this. I don't know if I'll have some kind of penalty at the end if you do brute force it. Maybe the more you're brute forcing it, you're actually giving stuff to the demon, which is kind of what I thought. It's like these are all like chaos actions. The law action is to kind of follow the rules, and the chaos action is just to go brute force through it. So I might, and now especially since I have some more room, I might put some notes in about that. Maybe that will enable the demon to do different things because you're essentially adding to the chaos. So you can't. But if you figure out this one, like, okay, statue gate, statue secret door, then I think by the time you get to this room, you may be inclined to go, what are the statues trying to tell us? And in some ways, it's the easiest. They're telling you to close your eyes, and so the doors are telling you to close your eyes. So if you close your eyes, you'll be able to see your way through. If you don't close your eyes, you could be going in, essentially like under a darkness spell. I could probably look up what a darkness spell does just to kind of get an idea if I want to write in something similar. And then you end up in the lower chapel. So there's a door, and then you end up in the guard room. And I think, and I'm not sure, and this is going to be interesting just in terms of how to do this, is Really, it's going to be an exhortation to put your weapons and stuff away. Excuse me, is to weapons down, weapons free, because that's just going to make the demon's job easier. Because remember, if you're the demon's backup plan, it's going to try to rile you up, do stuff, try to get you to kill it. And if you don't have your weapons, you're less likely to kill it. I mean, granted, I'll run back to the room, get my sword, run back, come and kill it. I mean, that's true too. But it's kind of concepts of putting and that might be what I have in the chapels is like weapons are not what this is not a weaponry. And I think that's probably the theme I'm going to go with. Like this area here is not about your physical weapons. It's not about that. It is not about what you can kill. Because killing is not, it's almost a false victory, or at least it's it's not what you want. Now, I don't know, maybe presumably you make these prisons accessible at all because you think, well, maybe you need to question the demon, or maybe, you might need this demon. Maybe the demon can tell you something. Maybe you need to kill the demon. You need to do something here so you can follow it back. Like there's, why not just put them in a block of concrete and drill, obviously besides the fact that you not having discovered concrete, but put it in some kind of metal stone box and bury it 1,000 miles into the earth. I don't know. But it makes sense that you might need to talk to it. Brian Smith says, carbonite them. Yeah, there's, if only we had carbonite. Did they ever say in the fiction in Star Wars, are there any, I know it could fail because they make a point of, right, having Vader say like, oh, it worked. The carbonite worked. Were there any consequences? Is there any time limit on carbonite? I don't know if in any of the novels or any of the things they ever talk about, excuse me, does carbonite ever go bad? Does it have a power source? You got to keep it plugged in. So anyway, that's that. So you can see I've got I got some of this stuff written in. Like I just put some gobbledygook placeholders for what I don't have. Carbonite shelf life, AI can tell us. Well, Brian, AI will tell you something. I don't know if I talked about this, but I will use Perplexity at times for purposes of doing Google searches, or just better browser searches. So I can ask it. I find that the AI tools, the search ones, for me, I just find that what I like about it is you can ask more of an open-ended or a question with multiple things, and we'll actually break it down and try to do it. And so what I will do is I'll go into something like Perplexity and I'll say, hey, I usually use it for lots of times for words. Like what is a good word for this? And then it'll give me links and I'll go look at the links. Or I'll ask for etymology. Because sometimes I find that it'll just give me more information. I'll go to Etym Online, like, oh, this works, and I'll go and I'll do that stuff. So one of the things I was working for is like I wanted some Latin words. This is actually for a game jam game I'm going to be working on after this. And I wanted a Latin. I thought that'd be cool to have a Latin phrase. I forget what I wanted it for. But I'm like, oh, give me some Latin words. And it sent me some Latin words. So I'm like, yeah, this word works. So, well, Brian says that AI as search makes perfect sense. Well, I'm going to tell you, Brian, hang on with the story. You may feel differently after this. So I asked the AI, okay, give me some Latin words. I think I was working for like forest or something. Give me some Latin words for, no, I don't know what it was. I think I wanted some Latin quotes, which is, so normally I ask for very simple things. Like what is the etymology of a word? Which is very simple. It's really, I could do that in the browser, but I just like that. I just get better sources, and I like the way it summarizes it for me. And I kind of just like the way it does as opposed to the search engine stuff. Less garbage, I feel like, than the search engine. This one's a little bit more complicated. I said, okay, I think I wanted, give me some Latin. I don't know if I think I might have asked for words first. I think I might ask, like, what are some words for like forest or meadow in Latin? So it gave me some. And I looked them up, like, yeah, this works. And okay, so now I was like, all right, well, I like this one. I narrowed it up. Like, of the words, and I looked them up, and I'm like, yep, these are all words. These are good. I said, okay, can you give me I just wanted an author, like give me a Roman author, or a quote from some kind of Roman author in Latin that uses this word. And okay, send it off. AI comes back, gives me a whole list. Oh, this, da, 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 da. So I just started looking through. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be one that I like. I'm like, okay. I look at it, I'm like, I like this one. So tell me, because it just gave me the little blurb. Like, oh, yeah, it's like, it gave me 5 words. Like, this phrase, uses it. And it's from Pliny the Elder. And it's in the was like the Historica Naturalis or something, or whatever the book is. Pliny the Elder, Natural History. This book, this chapter. I'm like, great. Well, and then I say, like, okay, can you give me the bigger quote? Can you give me the more context? And it gives me the quote. I go, great. It's got links, because Perplexity, which I like, it's not, I assumed it was not generating anything. It was using, because my understanding of Perplexity is that it uses some of the large language model tools to basically take what I'm asking it, kind of churn it, and then run run in kind of an intermediary steps to run essentially internet sources, and then maybe in the back end then to pull those sources and kind of arrange them and summarize them. And it also doesn't, which I like, is when you're using Perplexity, as far as I know, what it says in its terms of service and everything, you're not feeding into large language models. I'm not feeding into the machines. My stuff is just there, and it goes. So I say, great. So I'm like, all right, cool. Pliny the Elder, Natural History, Book 8. I think it was like Book 8, Chapter 53. Awesome. And it had a link. It's like, great. I click on the link. Here it is, in English and English and Latin. Book 8, Chapter 53, Pliny the Elder's Natural History. And I start looking for the phrase. It's not there. And when I mean it's not there, it's not there. It's not like it wasn't there in the like, oh, well, it's kind of not there. I mean, it was so, I was looking at this thing about, I think it was something about like dangerous beasts. Like it was like the slaughter of beasts in the forest. It was like a really cool phrase. Like, and I ended up using it, and the name, which I think I might have posted some pictures of it. I used the phrase it made up for me because it is Latin. Here's the thing. I guess I kind of ruined the story. The phrase isn't there. Now, this sends me down a rabbit hole. I probably spent 2 or 3 hours. I start looking through, all right, well, it's not this chapter. What was the chapter wrong? So I start going through, and I'm running searches. Now I'm running like actual internet, searches, or I'm doing document searches on online translations. I find some other English translations with the Latin and English of different things, and I'm comparing them to see if maybe it's not maybe it gave me the wrong translation. Is this one or that one? And in the meantime, Perplexity is telling me like, oh yeah, it's there. Here's what it is, Pliny the Elder, I can't find anything. Not only can I not find the phrase, like even the words don't really, like the main word I was looking for only shows up one time in that whole book. I mean, in this book, it's in that whole document, because it's like multiple books, it's a massive tome. It shows up one time in the whole tome, and it's in a totally different context. Nothing is there. I'm looking at other things. I'm like, man, I'm looking at other translations of the book in case and why? Because I'm doing the Latin and English, right? I'm not just doing like the Latin word, and I'm not just doing the English word, because I understand that there are different ways to translate a word. So I'm really doing both. So I'm like, all right, maybe the word was wrong, but the English is right. Maybe, or the Latin is off, but the English is right. Maybe the English is off, the Latin is right. Nothing. I went from, okay, first I'm just doing that book. Then I'm doing like, let me do all of Pliny the Elder that I can find, because there are some of these really cool sites that basically have indexed, all these Latin authors. You can just go like, and I'm just like, that's the next thing I do. Let me just do all the authors. Let me just do internet searches. Put those 4 words, whatever it gave me, original words it gave me, the smallest portion. Let me put those in just a Google search and just say, where's that phrase show up? Just put that in quotes and say, bring me anything. Guess what? Nothing. Not a thing. And that's because the whole thing was a hallucination. And what's that? Hallucination is what they call it when these large language models just make stuff up. And by the way, they're making stuff up all the time. One, they probably shouldn't call them hallucinations, but that's the word for it. So don't blame me. Blame the people who write and talk about large language models. But really, the large language models, from what I understand, don't really understand anything. They're just kind of putting stuff together, and they're using all this data they have to try to put stuff together in what they think is the right order of things. So in my case, I ended up with a plausible Latin, a whole paragraph of Latin that was completely made up. And it wasn't gobbledygook. I took my phrase, and it was actually off slightly. But I was like, okay, the phrase tracks. I had to change. I think I was missing basically there was a typo in it, because it went from like wild beast to like iron, because it was like verum versus like verarum or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was like one letter off. But even then, I don't think that would have made any difference. And finally, after I told it, because it was asking, I kept asking for like, what book are you looking at? I'm arguing. What book are you looking at, AI? It ain't there. Well, maybe I'm like, no, it's not there. It's like, you go to this book, it's not there. And finally, I don't want to say to its credit, but it said, hey, you know what? You're right. We checked it, and it's not there. And essentially, I don't know where this came from, but it doesn't exist. Not only does it not exist here, it doesn't exist anywhere. I'm like, yep, thanks very much. Excuse me. So, I learned that even though my assumption was that when I sent it off looking for phrases, that it wasn't going to be making something up, it was going to be looking for phrases, that somewhere along the way it made something up. I don't know where in the chain, because I don't know exactly how it works. I kind of was thinking that it went like large language model to convert it into sort of, okay, to read it and kind of pull out different search terms, run the search terms, and maybe large language model on the other side to take the search results as it's, because it's not just pulling in the results, right? It's pulling in information and then giving you a nice sort of summary of the information. Somewhere in there, it totally made it up and was swearing to me up, down, and sideways for a while that it existed, even though I was starting to send messages like, I don't think it's there. I can't find it. What translation are you using? What is it? Different translations. And the thing is, if I had been less, and I'm not trying to point like, oh, this is me. If I was just less diligent because I didn't care, or it didn't matter to me, then I would have put this thing attributed to Pliny the Elder from his. And the thing is that probably nobody would have noticed. And here's the weird thing: is maybe that gets. And do you end up feeding it back into the like? If I publish something, let's say it was a blog post, and I wanted to talk about something with hex crawls and wild beasts, and I put this Pliny the Elder quote that I felt confident in because it seemed right, and maybe I checked that the translation was good, and it would have been. It was fine. I was able to translate it. And then it feeds, and then later on, so my blog post is sitting on the web, and that goes back into the AI, perpetrates the lie. It feeds back into itself. It becomes something like, oh, I think we find that other things, right? This garbage that AI is putting out ends up getting trained in the next round of AI. Because you shouldn't call them right? These large language models, people use them, put out a bunch of trash. That trash is on the internet. That trash gets ingested into training for new models of large language models, new versions, which then ends up with more trash in them, which is why you can see weird things show up, because people have been searching it. People have been inputting that stuff wherever, ends up in the inventory of data, and suddenly that stuff's popping up again. So beware, even with search, beware. Brian says, you don't want to risk pissing off the Pliny heads. No, I just want to be, I'm just trying to be, and it's not even like I'm trying to be super thorough. I wasn't like, I want the context. I want to see the rest of the quote, and I got to look it up, because I'm not using the AI to try to make something for me. I was just hoping it could do a better job pointing me in the right direction than I tend to, I find it a little bit easier. But now I have to rethink that. Now I've gone back to, or I've been thinking more about, maybe I need to keep it really simple. Because if I did not feel like I was really asking it, because again, I did not think I was asking it a generation type question. I wasn't asking it to write me Latin. I was asking it to find Latin on the internet, and I don't know where it pulled that Latin from, wherever. But it did open my eyes, because that's the first time, again, because I don't use them for generation stuff. The first time I'd been hit with kind of a hallucination problem. So now I understand when I had talked to people who have mostly been forced by their organizations to add large language model powered tools into their workflows, how much they hate them. Because if you're doing something technical and it's really important that this stuff is correct, you can't have these kind of errors. Imagine if I'm a doctor or a nurse and I'm asking some large language model in the hospital system, computer system, to give me some information. Again, I'm not asking it to generate, I'm asking it to find it, and it makes up some crap and gives it back to me. But the crap, if I'm not paying attention, and especially if it's not my specialty or my area, it's close enough that I might go, okay, and do it. And then you're totally off the reservation. And that can happen. And it has happened in ways that are not really important. Like like I think there was that thing with the help bot, one of those chat agents for an airline telling people that, oh, you can get a refund. And then the airline going, no, no, no. But it could happen with something important. And my thing was totally frivolous. And it happened. And it just because I'm interested and I'm looking around, I know, it found me, but I could easily have just been perpetrating some fake Pliny the Elder quote. And that's kind of the least, that's sort of the best case scenario for how one of these hallucinations can affect you. Brian says they have an AI plugged into their CRM at work and they hate it. At least they have a little small print that says AI suggestions may be false, which nobody reads. Yeah, because kind of what's the point, right? And that's the other thing too. It's like I spend multiple hours going through that. I'm probably not going to ask a Perplexity AI that kind of question again because I end up spending way more time looking it up than I could have, especially now that I have some of these resources bookmarked of Roman authors and things. Why would I go through the thing and have to wonder if it's wrong and I'm gonna have to check up on it and all this stuff? Like I just go and do it. So yeah, I totally understand why people would hate it, and you just wouldn't. I mean, either you hate it and you don't use it because you can't trust it, or you just go with it and you don't read the fine print because you go, it's probably right, or I don't know. And neither one of those is really a good outcome. Anyhow, but I ended up finding a phrase that I'm using for my game jam entry. Did I save I think I might have the picture. Did I keep a picture of it? I think I did. I will show it just because I know I've shared this other places, but where? Let me make sure I have it. I think I do. Yeah. Oh, no, not that. There it is. You may have seen this before. In saltibus stragus. That was not the entire quote. I think it was one or two more words. But, yeah. Yep. That was it. So that'll be my next thing going on. Where was I? Okay. I have a pretty hard stop because I got to take my daughter to swim class this afternoon. But I did like these puzzles I came up with, quote unquote puzzles. I don't know if I want to add an actual trap. I think I'm going to add something into these chapels about an invitation to put your weapons. I'm not sure what it would look like, and I'll probably have to put some rusty weapons and things in there to kind of show like, oh, you're supposed to put weapons in here. And maybe I'll have two different things like swords and shields, like weapons and armor, something like that. Like you're kind of, I think that might work. And then I got the prison itself. I'm not sure what I could have in these crypts. So if you end up going this way and going in the long gallery, I don't know if I want it to be another, I want to have something here, like why, because the two things, like I could either just get rid of it because what's the purpose? I don't want to have that you kind of waste time coming through here and it's kind of for nothing. By the same token, if I'm saying that maybe there'll be some other items potentially, I'm not sure because I want there to at least be the potential for something worthwhile, either in terms of clues or in terms of stuff, resources essentially. if the idea is here's you're putting your armor and your weapons away, then what could you have in those crypts that could help you? I'm not sure. I do have to figure that part. I do have to figure that part out. But yeah, so and I put this in the wrong spot originally. But I guess what I was psyched about this morning was the concept of the theme, the symbolic themes of the flame and the tablet. I like the interactions I have. So here you carve a flame on a tablet to open that gate. Here you have to put a flame up to the carving of a tablet to open the secret door. Here you have to sort of show your inner flame by having faith and closing your eyes. And that doesn't open the doors, but it allows you to see through the magical or supernatural or divine darkness. And then I think these two, are, hey, put your weapons away, put your armor away, put your armor down. And that will open these two gates. But like I said, you can brute force it. I'm not anti brute forcing it, but I think I'm going to put a note. Maybe I should put a note here that brute forcing it will give. I'll have to figure out some little table of and each kind of thing you just open gives the demon a little something. You're adding to the chaos. I put a note. Each one of the I'll just put puzzles right now to write it. Adds to the demons. Okay, something like that. I'll rewrite it and I'll probably put it up here somewhere. There are certain locks. They could be brute forced, kind of, like a normal gate. So you can brute force the gates and stuff. You can, use your bend bars, lift gates, whatever you want to use. But if you do all that stuff, you're giving the demon power because you're basically injecting chaos into this law area. And that is about it. So like I said, I'm pretty happy. I'm happy to have some extra space. It allowed me to kind of bring in this at a larger size because having it kind of this size was just kind of small. I could have dealt with it, but I was kind of thinking, I don't know if I want to. I was finding I was running out of room and I still had some things to detail. And maybe there's some blessings you can get in here. I don't know. That might be. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out because that might be something. Like if you come in here and you sort of pray or do something, then maybe some of these things will light up. So you'll kind of understand their worth. Anywho, I'm still trying to figure out a video for the main channel. Oh, we'll see how that goes. I kind of want to do a video on AI, but I find it's a very divisive topic on the kind of large language models. I see them popping up a lot, and a lot of people using them for prep and stuff. And I don't like the trend, but I see a lot of people. There's kind of two sides of it, and one side seems to be very vocal. I thought D&D is about fun, like whoa, and it's like that's not. I'm not trying to kill not trying to kill someone's fun. I don't know if there's a good. I don't think I've figured out if there's a good analog to use. And, because I kind of want to say, well, at what point are you just either doing something different or you're just not doing the thing anymore? Ian says, sounds like great click farming. Maybe, but I want to try to. I want to try to be on the. I don't want to say like you're bad wrong if you use these large language models essentially to generate content for you. But I do want to say that I think it's a dead end. Like you get these people who are super technical. Oh, I'm training my own model locally on 20 years of information, and like that's the kind of justification. Like it's not. I'm not doing this. Like I'm doing it. It's pulling from my own data, all this stuff, and at a certain point you go, hey, look, that's fine, right? And you get people who are saying, but I think that I think yes, you have people who may be using it under quote unquote responsibly or as quote unquote responsibly as you can. But there's a lot of other people who aren't. And as Ian says, you're not going to get original content. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to say that can be meaningful and not just knocking people for using a tool? You get this like, you're just a Luddite. You just don't want to use it. It's a tool and like, no, that's not. I'm not trying to say, I'm not anti-tool, but at some point it ceases to be a tool. Like if you have a hammer and then you get a bigger hammer and then you get an auto hammer, it's not making the thing for you. You're still making the bench or the table. Your efficiency with the hammer, but the plans, the designs, like all the stuff you did, like that's a tool. I don't know at what point these things like these large language models, they move from being a tool to being the creator. That would be my one thing. It's like at some point, and you can argue with me all you want, like, no, it's only my first draft. And then I go through and I totally redo it. And like, okay, maybe you do. But I think we can already see that a lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are just publishing it even. Oh, here, I'm going to, we're already seeing a glut of AI generated content showing up in blogs, and worse yet, showing up in published stuff that people are publishing and asking money for. So for everybody who's saying that they're using it for a first draft, I'm inclined to think a lot of folks are going for the lowest common denominator and saying it looks good to me and running with it. So it's, you have to really, if you're going to be original, you're going to have to really be on top of it because it's not going to be original. And the other thing I've thought about is it's not repeatable. I think maybe if you have a local model and maybe if you ask it the exact same thing worded the exact same way, you might get the same result. Maybe you will. I don't know if you will, but if you're using a model that's online via a browser or via whatever, every time you ask it, you're going to get different results. And how can you repeat the result you got? If I'm using tables from, I don't know, AD&D to do a dungeon, I can share those tables and someone can repeat whatever I do with the same table. Like you can get, like I rolled this, I got this from this table and this from that table. And I got, like, you can see that, okay, I got it. Here's the procedure. And someone can follow that procedure, end up with the same results. You can't do that with a large language model. Even if you go to the same model. Well, what were you running it on? I was on ChatGPT, whatever. It's like, okay, but you're going to get something different. And you can't source it. Like, people ask all the time. I'm sure you've seen people have asked me. I will ask people, I see something, someone said to me, look I did this. I was prepping for my campaign and I was using these tables and I got this. And someone says, great. Ooh, what tables were those? So I can use them. And you can say like, oh, these tables were the AD&D. You go to AD&D Appendix A, or you go to whatever thing you really like, Worlds Without Number. Oh, I was generating factions using Worlds Without Number. Great. What if it's ChatGPT? Now you can tell something I did with ChatGPT, but again, even if you say, well, give me your exact prompt and all this stuff, you're likely to get different results. You can't replicate them. And who could even send to? Like ChatGPT, well, who's that? How can I say, help, this person's a really good author, so get their stuff. You can't do that with ChatGPT. It's a black box. But I haven't figured out a way to kind of say it. Maybe I just need to say it like that and just hit record and just repeat what I just said, and that will work. I don't know. But people don't seem to. I get. See, that's the thing is I think people don't end up caring about it that much, and maybe that's what bums me out about it. Is when I'm playing in somebody's game, I want their. I've said this before. I'm playing in your game. Not that it's not even that like, and like there is a line, right? Because someone said to me, "Well, what's the difference between that and like running a module or running whatever?" And it's that sourcing. You're maybe it's not yours, but it's from some other human mind. It's not just this gobbledygook merging. And with tables, there's still procedures you go through that come from human minds, and then you're putting them together. When you put something in ChatGPT, it comes out with essentially this final product, and maybe you tweak it here or there, but you're not really inputting it. And I don't buy it if someone's going to tell me like, well, I've had to do the prompting for that, and that's where my creativity comes in. It's like, no, sorry, that doesn't wash. That don't wash with me, pal. But yeah, I don't know. I want to do it because I feel like it's something is becoming a thing. I'm seeing it a lot, and I'm seeing a lot of people be like, oh yeah, cool. And I don't know that we should be so cool with it, but I also know that a lot of people are just going to go like, you're being a Luddite, you're being a weenie. And, as Ian says, maybe I should just do it anyway and get the controversy stuff flying. Because I think, and I guess the last thing is I think we all understand now the issues with it became very well known and big, the issues with the images. And I dabbled with it, right? I was seduced for a bit with the images. It was fun. I wasn't using it for published works or anything. I was using it for thumbnails. But I wasn't doing anything with it. And I could get it. And once it was like clear, like this is how it's working, I stopped. And I think a lot of people became conscious of it and thought like, we shouldn't do this. But for some reason that the stuff with text content, which shouldn't be held to some kind of lesser standard or lesser thing, it's kind of flying under the radar in a bad way, I think. At least in circles I see. But anywho, all right, folks, I got a jet. Hey, Croco, right on time to say goodbye, pretty much. I should be around tomorrow. I do have to do a video. It might be this. I might just ponder this a little bit more and then record it without the backdrop and stuff. Maybe we'll see, or I'll think of something else to do. And then I will hopefully have kind of the final. I feel like I'm in the entering the final stretch. I'm really happy to have figured out my theming with this. So I just got to write up some things. I like the idea of maybe getting some prayers or some things to help in each one of those spots. Yeah. So, excuse me. That's that. All right. Well, I'll be back. So have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. And I'll talk to you later. Bye now.